What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 13 of 45 Minutes of Noise. I am your host, slash your boy, Chris Pugh, and I am joined by my very good friend and Mr. Nickel himself, Samuel Lewis, on this Monday evening. How are we?
We are well. We are well. I just had chicken and rice for tea, Chris, and I made it myself. It was very
Nice.
nice. Has anyone ever made the right amount?
Oh, of rice, it's never happened, and it never will, because my mom taught me something good with rice. She mentioned that you need to fill up. If you're gonna have rice just for yourself, you need to have half a teacup. Like get a cup you would usually have tea in, so a mug, I suppose. Half of that will be enough for one person, but it isn't. It's not right.
Chris, I have like two spare plastic takeaway tubs full of chicken and rice now. Like, I guess I was fine to be sorted for the day, but I was just wildly optimistic on my rice eating capacity this afternoon.
And you had already eaten to the point of I can't have another mouthful now. I am
Yeah,
beyond
that
full.
was plus a plate. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
It was good
Yeah,
though.
you
It was
really
good
have
though,
did
but
it.
like. But I know I have lunch for 3 to 5 business days, apparently. So here we are.
Feels good to be doing this podcast in the dark, considering we're talking about Cradle of the Filth.
It's very appropriate. Am I right in thinking that the last time we reviewed a Cradle of Filth record, which is the last Cradle of Filth record, there were literal
Yeah.
bat sounds in the background of the record? Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if that was a fever dream
Picture
or a
of Danny
different.
Filth hanging upside down from a ceiling as well on the full cover, if I remember.
Yep, yep, fair enough. I just wanted to maintain. Yes, we are. It is very appropriate that we're doing a dark, a little cold evening.
Coming up on today's show, we've got reviews on new records from Cradle of Filth, as mentioned, and new albums from Spirit World, and we've got news to discuss on Mastodon and Sleep Token. Before we get into the show, we should tell you how you can support us, and the best way to do that is by liking slash subscribing on YouTube or whichever podcast service you use to listen slash watch. You can follow us on X at Noise Podcast, as well as following the Noise platform in general at Noise UK on X, Instagram, Facebook, and Blue Sky. You should head to noise.co.uk for all your latest news, album reviews, features, and interviews. Let's move into the main event of the show. Cradle of Filth, The Screaming of the Valkyries. It's out also on March 21st via Napalm Records. It's the band's 14th album and the follow up to 2021's Existence is Futile. Sam, Danny Filth has been in this band since 1991. It's amazing,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
It's
He,
incredible.
he sounds like he's been in it since like 1691 with some of the themes and some of the styles that he takes. And I mean that as a compliment. At times he sounds genuinely demonic. There were moments on this where I was like, how does a person make that noise? Genuinely, like I felt like David Attenborough watching like a nature documentary where it was like astonishing, like he just widens his throat and just sounds like I don't know, whatever a boggart in Harry Potter noise made. Like, do you know what I mean? It's just ridiculous. I don't understand. I really don't understand.
Cradle of the Filth have just been really one of the most important like extreme metal bands like ever. I,
Yes,
I,
yes.
I'm so curious as to what black metal would look like right now if it wasn't for Cradle of Filth, because I'm hardly a Cradle of Filth kind of aficionado, please, but one thing that I kind of have always associated with black metal, and I really haven't kind of delved on black metal, but what Cradle of Filth have done for me is remove the kind of stereotype that black metal is just going to sound like it was kind of recorded in the back of someone's shed through a tin speaker. Because if you
Yeah,
listen to
yeah,
like
that's true.
if you listen to like Bathory, apart from the fact that you listen to something that like was a real turning point in extreme metal and opened up something new, after that I just find it impossible to get past the production. Like, I can't
Yeah,
because
yeah, I completely understand that.
it just there are some musical efforts where kind of the grittiness of the production is part of the kind of aesthetic. But for like early style black metal, I really struggle with that. And what Cradle of Filth are, I think are phenomenal at is sticking to those black metal tropes, but also adding like this kind of adding the theatricality, obviously, but also adding this kind of cleanliness and purity to the way it sounds. Like the Screaming of the Valkyries is like genuinely really well produced.
Yeah, it's professional. isn't it? It doesn't just sound like five blokes with face paint on,
Yeah.
just sort of in a forest doing their own photo shoots and growling at each other. But this is a Chris, this is a good album, man.
It is. It is.
This is a
And
really good record.
it is. And I I first noticed myself immediately really getting on board when you got to demagoguery
Oh
because
yeah, Demagogue
you
was
get
great.
you get that classic Cradle of Filth theatricality in its opening, that massive grinding riff that breaks out. Danny's rasping vocal sound as good as ever. There's a really nice transition into this kind of punching snare drum sound from Martin on the chorus. There's a high pitched scream at the song top that blends into the keyboards. That's so hilariously Cradle of Filth. Like I laughed when it happened, not in a mocking way, in the sense of God, that is so Cradle of Filth. There's a really nice solo that breaks out too, of which we should actually mention the solos on this album are
Yeah,
phenomenal.
guitar work's amazing. God, it was amazing. The moments in this where like he growls in a guttural way that only a few extreme metal vocalists can get to. And then there are bits where he like does this singing talking blend that sounds like if Emperor Palpatine from Star Wars started a band. And I don't get how he's able to sort of vary his vocal range at all in that sort of way. But like just breaking it down from a song by I completely agree, Demagoguery is fantastic. Um so is Trinity of Shadows, like
Yeah.
melody, harmonies. And that's the thing as well. Cradle of Filth, book the stereotype that black metal is just sort of radio static for
Mm.
sort of 4 minutes a track. Because there's real moments of beauty on here. And there's real moments of harmony and real musicality in the guitar work and the song structures, and Trinity of Shadows is one of those. We got the standard Cradle of Filth gothic ballad with non-omnis Moriar, which I just
Yeah.
sort of said, of course, ticked an imaginary box in my head and moved on to the next one. White Hellebore was great though. The opening, the drums are just fantastic. The riff's great. Again another one box tick female input on the chorus to add sort of harmonic depth. We always get that in a Cradle of Filth tune. And I, d- the first bit that I was like, oh lads, was like "You Are My Nautilus," where he does that rhyming spoken word thing halfway through, and I'm
Yeah.
like, Are we sure about this? I felt it was like 90 seconds too long. That song was. It like kind of went back to the chorus just one more time than necessary. I felt. Um,
I do like the open. That's my favorite opening to a track on the album. That is because it explodes out. It's got this
yeah,
massive like
real
pomp and
growl.
circumstance to it. I do like the opening of "My You Are My Naughter," but I know the bit that you're referring to.
Yeah, yeah. And a Malignant Perfection was a little bit overtly theatrical, but then again, I wrote that and then thought to myself, if I'm going to criticize Cradle of Filth for being a little bit too overtly theatrical, I have completely missed the point
Yeah.
of Cradle of Filth. So I did quickly temper myself, but the guitar and the synth work at the end of this was terrific. There's a powerful thumping chorus. Um, I kind of got Iron Maiden vibes on Ex Sanguine Draculae with the kind of harmony guitars working that kind of cyclical harmony
Yeah.
broken away. I was like, okay, it's like Iron Maiden could have put this together. And then it goes back into this like breakneck metalcore style, which is just objectively impressive. Um, and When Misery Was a Stranger is just like a really, really great song with a really, really powerful finish and felt like a power metal song at times with some of the high pitched sort of chorus with the power metal stuff that I didn't expect necessarily. It feels, gosh, dare I say, a little bit more mainstream for a Cradle of Filth record than the last one. Slightly, I don't know if people are going to be, you know, stepping out of their graves to come find me. But are we a little bit, just a touch? This is a little bit more mainstream than like the last record, right?
Well,
A touch, a touch.
the inclusion of Zoe Federoff on the keyboards, could she joined in 2022. I was wondering what the next Cradle of Filth record would sound like because we just had Existence is Futile, and we know that Cradle of Filth have kind of experimented with obviously female vocalists, adding in backing vocals, etc. before. But for Zoe on keyboards and to have like I wouldn't say a lead vocal role because Danny Filth is very much a lead vocalist on the record. But you mentioned Non Omnis Moriar, and I think that actually the playoff between Danny and Zoe is quite well. It works quite well, and I think her keyboards on the record are brilliant. That adds the theatricality so well, and I think that her inclusion, while abs does not make the record does not kind of make the record too watered down in any way, shape, or form. I think it does give Cradle of Filth a new arm to kind of move to a slightly more realm of accessibility, if you think that's
It
fair.
just sounded a bit, it just sounded a bit more traditional metal than I'd expected.
Yeah.
You know, like there was at times when it was like borderline like metalcore, and I was like, I'm into this. But it was actually like not as dark and gothic and misanthropic as I expected, and that seemed to have, like I talked about the theatricality, but there's only like two or three moments where I really felt that kind of edged into the pathetic fallacy style black metal.
Yeah.
And it felt really like a metal album with black metal tropes rather than a black metal record with metal tropes, if that makes sense.
Interesting. It does make sense, yeah, and that is an interesting way of framing it.
So and again, I mean, the word accessible and Cradle of Filth. I mean, like you're right, but also what a weird thing to say.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, but I think this is a good what's the word? Is it? It's even weird to say that because again, that's supposed to be laugh out loud. Could this qualify as like an entry level Cradle of Filth record?
Think so, yeah. I think that's a really fair way of putting it.
Like if someone was starting to sort of get into more extreme metal, could you play this as like a bridge
Yeah.
to the nastier stuff? I think you could too. I think you could too. I think this is really good. I think this is
Yeah,
really
really good
good,
album, this.
and it's 14th album. This is
Incredible.
14th. It shouldn't be. Really should be dull at this point, and the songwriting should have dried up. And I also wish to say that I really like Danny Filth. I think he's funny
Yeah, he's
and really
awesome.
smart, and I think he's the kind of person that could have really just dove headfirst into this I'm the front man of Cradle of Filth vibe and just been like really difficult to interview and really hard to reach and really aloof and distant. And he's actually like really smart and personable and accessible and interesting. And I think that does stuff for the band and the perception of black metal overall as
Totally.
well. Um, and I've got a ton of respect for that. And if I can't do 14 of anything without it sounding repeated, like repetitive at all. So the idea that he's doing this, and it still sounds versatile and interesting and well put together and everything really, just professional all-round record that does them a great service once again, I think should be applauded. Let alone the fact that it's a really good album in and of itself. Like if a black metal band came out with this, I wouldn't think, oh, that sounds a bit old and aged. Like it just fits rightly into what modern black metal kind of has sounded like on the occasions that you forced me to listen to it. But overly, I think this is terrific. I really do. I think this is a really good record, and Cradle of Filth fans should be excited, genuinely
Yeah.
excited for what's about to come, or at least mildly happier if excitement isn't necessarily something that they're accustomed to.
There's nothing really for me to add on top of what you said in terms of your review of the record. I think you're pretty much spot on. There's not really much else I can bring to the kind of
But yeah, I'm
critical
glad we're
com
recording this.
There's not really much else I can bring to the critical conversation that we're having. I think you really have hit every single nail on the head, man. And one thing I just want to quickly add though is that the Cradle of Filth and Ed Sheeran song is just out there waiting to be released. It was recorded 2 years ago, I think, and it just exists, and we're just waiting for the day that it gets released. And when I say I'm curious, I that is I am playing that down to the largest degree. I am unbelievably curious to hear
No,
that
Chris, it's better
Cradle
as a
of Filth entrance.
concept. No one needs the real evidence of that. It's better in the hypothetical. Just let it exist in the possibility that it's awesome when we
Right,
both know it's probably going to be tin.
as we close off, would you rather it be a Cradle of Filth song with Ed Sheeran or an Ed Sheeran song with Cradle of Filth?
Oh, that's a great question. I think it would be better for me personally if it was Cradle of Filth featuring Ed Sheeran. But what I want it to be is an Ed Sheeran pop song with Danny Filth
Where there's like rap
adding in.
in the middle of it.
Yeah, that's what I want. I want it to be like Ed Sheeran with the acoustic guitar and the little drum beat machine thing, and Danny Filth is just sort of growling at various points. Maybe they've got like a vocoder on it or something, and that would be terrific. Or it just starts off as like a pop song and then cascades into this sort of like completely different tune. Yeah,
You'll listen. You'll listen.
of course I'll listen. Of course I'll listen. Of course I'll listen. But will my toes be curling? Like 90% of chance, I think.
I think it's pretty incredible that they've just got it on a hard drive and it's just there waiting for the day they're like, yeah, now we'll do. It makes sense that it's not on this album. With it not being on this album, I'm very much going to assume it's going to be something quite different from Cradle of Filth. Otherwise, if it would have fit within the thematic idea of this album, why is it not there? But yeah, I'm man, I'm fascinated for that day. That's going to be a moment. I'm going to immediately, when I get, if I'm at work, I'm going to, on my lunch break or something, I'm immediately jumping on Spotify and listening to it. That's going to be
The
something.
thing is, if it's a Cradle of Filth song where Ed Sheeran plays the role that Zoe filled on today's record, that's fine. That can be easily done.
Yeah,
What I want is the other way around.
yeah. A random scream from Danny Filth while Ed Sheeran's in like the
Yeah,
middle of a
maybe they could
ballad.
break into a hip hop section like the Sleep Token song, and then Danny can scream over that type of thing. That would just be marvelous, I think.
That is where we're going to leave it for this episode of 45 Minutes of Noise. Thank you so much for sticking around. We really appreciate it. We are going to be back in 2 weeks' time. We're going to be talking about a new record from Bleed From Within, and by the looks of it, a new record from Scowl as well. Although I do need to double check that release window to see if there's anything else coming up around that time. A reminder that you can support us by liking and subscribing on YouTube. Follow us on X at Noise Podcast. You should go to noise.co.uk for all your latest news, album reviews, and interviews. Thank you so much for listening to us. We are going back in 2 weeks' time. Keep it heavy. Thank you. Bye.